6:02. We're a little bit behind because I'll just make a quick announcement. We did have a brief executive session. No cases were discussed, no deliberations, no decisions. It was simply with regard to bringing a couple of new board members on and the reorganization we're doing tonight. So with that, I will open the meeting. And the first thing we need to do is the reorganization. So I'm going to take a motion for appointment of the chair of the board for 2025, and then I'll turn the meeting over to the chair. So does someone want to nominate one of the members as the chair?
I will. I'd like to nominate Pete to be the chair, please.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I have second.
Okay. We don't need a roll call vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The ayes have it. So the meeting is yours, Mr. Chair.
All right. No script, but I'll just continue down. It's all right.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to call for a
I'd
motion.
like to call for a motion to nominate a vice chair.
I will nominate Paige as vice chair.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'll call for a motion to name our solicitor.
And it's not on your list. It's Fitzpatrick, Lentz, and Buba. Yeah. If you're going to appoint the same firm that's done it for the last how many years?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Fitzpatrick, Lentz, and Buba as our solicitor, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to call for a motion for an appointment of the secretary.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Dave as the secretary, please.
Second. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to call for a motion to nominate the conflict solicitors, Kevin Kelleher, Matt Tranter, and Steve Strack.
Make a motion to nominate the solicitors as listed by the chair as backup.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Yep. So we'll close. We'll finish the reorganization. We'll move on to the regular meeting. And let me see if the script for your regular meeting is here. Do you have that?
I'm not seeing it.
Okay. You don't have the script. So I'll do it this first time, Mr.
All
Chair,
right.
and we'll get you the script. So the procedure tonight is there are two cases. There should be sign-in sheets for each of those cases. Is it on that table?
Yes.
Okay, over on that table. So if you're here on that case, if you could please sign and fill in the information. Then we'll call the cases. We're going to call them in the order they are on the agenda this evening, which means 131 East Church Street is first, and 10 East Packer Avenue will be the second case. When your case is called, the applicant will proceed up to this table. We'll ask you about having posted the property, since it's the applicant's obligation in the city of Bethlehem to post the property. If it has been posted and the zoning officer indicates that it's been properly advertised, we'll proceed, and the applicant will be given an opportunity to present its case. If there are interested members of the audience for any case, they will be given an opportunity at the end of any witness's testimony to ask questions, and at the end of the applicant's case to make a statement if they so wish, either for or against or neutral, but with what they think is important information. We try to let people get up and speak their mind, but remember, this is a zoning board proceeding, and it needs to be facts that are relevant to what the applicant has asked the board to approve it to do. Good?
Yeah.
All set? Okay. So then with that, you want to call the first case?
All right. I'd like to call 131 East Church Street.
All right. And then typically what we would do next is the zoning officer would read the relief.
131 East Church Street, approval of Cliff Star, AKA Llewellyn Company Limited, for a dimensional variance to permit the installation of a brick fence/wall in front yard areas higher than the permitted 4-foot height, with 4'6" posts permitted. A 5-foot height with 5'8" piers or posts is proposed, with 2 additional entry structures measuring up to approximately 8 feet total in height depicted in exhibits. The proposal has received a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay. So then typically next we'll have the witnesses witnesses sworn in. I'm assuming there's only one witness from applicant's behalf.
I'm really the applicant on behalf of the owner.
And is there anyone in the audience who's interested in this case? Okay. So in case you want to say anything, when we swear in the applicant's representative, we'll swear you in also, please. Okay. You want to do that? All right.
Can you stand and raise your right hands, please? You do swear or affirm that the testimony which you shall give in the matter before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You do so swear or affirm?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. With that,
Yeah.
you can proceed.
So
I'm sorry, ma'am. Can you give me your name, please?
yes, Christine Ussler, Ussler.
Thank you.
I have worked with the owner of the property previously, and he approached me this past year, in 2024, about continuing work that we had done at the back of the property, which was a 6-foot high brick wall, similar to what you see actually on the screen now. That was along the alley. And he came wanting to do at least a 6-foot high brick wall at the front, and discussed with him the fact that that would not meet code. And we worked together on a compromise. And this is a 5-foot high brick wall. And I feel as an architect that if it went any lower, it would not be proportionate to the building, to the street. It's a unique property, but very unusual in that it's 70 feet from the sidewalk to the house, to the front facade. And it's also on a slight rise, so that this wall will not obstruct view of the house itself. The wall would be approximately 5 feet from the sidewalk. It's outside of, or does not encroach on the street right of way. And stylistically trying to work with the Georgian revival style of the house. So the 2 larger or taller gateways, the central one is about 7'1" to the top of the post. The gate arches up above that. And then on the east end is a secondary entrance. I think his intent here really is that he would be going in and out on the east end, and that the center one was more fixed in place. So,
And did you say the height? You said it's 7'1" for the main gate. What is the height of the secondary entrance?
the secondary entrance at the peak goes to 8 foot. Oh, I think it was 8'1" or 8'4". I'm sorry. I'll have to look at my drawing. Let's say 8'4". It's actually not on the drawing. The center gateway would also have lamps, copper lamps. He would love to have them be gas lamps. They might end up being electrified. And there are many cities, as I'm sure some of you know, Charleston, Boston, Philadelphia, Georgetown, that have street walls, sort of garden walls. And that's sort of a precedent that he's looking at, and also in Europe. And if there's any questions, can you help me provide you the information you need?
I'll ask you this question, but maybe the zoning officer has to answer it. Does the 4-foot fence height with 4'6" post allowed also regulate gates. Were you sworn in, Dave?
I was not sworn. in.
Okay, we should do that. My fault. I should have asked you to be sworn in.
I do. It's not a question. I've had, typically my interpretation would be that the gates would be subject to that requirement also. In a
Okay.
front yard situation.
So if we had no fence and I just put like one of those wooden lattices, could I not do that in the front yard either? In other words, is it only because it's part of the fence now? Or would I not be allowed to put a separate just lattice with no fence? Like you see people have like to the entrance to gardens and things of that,
Like an archway.
like an
Just
archway
a
Or an
arch.
arbor.
or an arbor. Yeah.
Um,
Or is it like not clear in the ordinance is probably the answer, right?
I would tell you it is not clear anywhere.
Okay. All right.
And I guess I also should mention that there are fences in Bethlehem nearby, right next door, that actually appears to be taller. There's a nice brick one at 60 East, I think, Church, which I had in the packet. That's actually a brick wall, very similar. There are wood fences that are equally, if not taller, as well along Center and further down on Church. See, I have the addresses there. So the neighboring to my direction's right, to the east, there is a white fence that's about over 6 feet. That's it, yes. There are fences all along Church Street or even Niskey Hill. That's probably close. I didn't actually go measure it. It's between 4 and 5 foot. As you come then to the intersection with Center Street, that's a more open fence, but that's at least 5, I believe, that you see right there at Church and Center. And if you go on the other side of Center, there is a tall, solid wood fence northwest corner of Church. That one, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So there is some precedent for, I'll say, a solid wall or fence in the immediate neighborhood.
Is it only the height that is violative, or is it in violation because it's completely solid and you can't see through it?
I think it's just the height.
Just the height?
Yeah. just
Yeah.
like-
Okay. And are you saying that because of the size of the home and the slope up, that an extra foot isn't going to be any different than if there was a 4-foot fence and the ground were completely flat?
Yeah, I think in terms of how much you would see the house, I
Yeah.
believe that is absolutely correct.
Okay, because that's up
It
higher.
is slightly, it's a slight rise as you go up, and the rendering should give you a pretty good feeling for that. You can see right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I see what. So that's
That,
you're saying you'll actually still see grass in front of the home
yes,
potentially, even over that fence because of the way it goes up.
Mhm.
Okay. Did the board have any questions?
My question may be a little bit more academic in nature, but and perhaps it's better for the zoning hearing officer, but is the concept of the limitation on the height of the fence is not just aesthetics for the neighborhood to have a more opening neighborhood, but also for safety in terms of being able to see a person on the other side of the fence? Or do you understand what that limitation, the purpose of the limitation is?
I do not, I can't speak to the purpose of the limitation. I mean, you're permitted higher fences in backyards and side yards. I think it's, if I had to guess, that it's just so you're not boxing in the street frontage of the sidewalk.
Right. And I'm gathering your, as an architect, desire to have this fence have a little bit more presence is because of the huge space in the front yard. So it doesn't have a disproportionate impact of a lower fence in a great big yard.
exactly. Yeah. And stylistically too, you wouldn't see something that style short. And it's hard then to do a sort of grand gate that he'd really like to do. And if the wall itself was short.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
I think you stated this before, but it looks like in this rendering, the side yards are at 6 feet, and then they kind of scoop down in that corner.
Actually, I think his intent was to stay at the, trying to remember, we talked about it, stay at the 5 foot until he gets behind the front facade, in which case it does not, then you're fine at the 6 feet.
Okay, and then you talked about the grade difference. Do you happen to know what the grade difference is?
I do not.
All right. I mean, it seems like it might be more than a foot from the Google photos that I'm looking at.
And from my experience as an architect, it's very hard to approximate slope. And my guess is you're going to find that's probably 4 feet.
By
From
the
my
time we get back
experience,
to the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
probably 4 to 5 feet.
And then I guess it's not, in your opinion, it wouldn't be impossible to build a shorter wall.
It's not impossible, no. It aesthetically it would not look right. And I think the Harb, I wanted to go to Harb first because I felt that would maybe give you some information from their viewpoint. And they also agreed that shorter would not.
So you already went
We did.
and they were okay with this?
Yes.
And it's not just that it wouldn't look right for this particular house, but you're also saying it would match and look more proportional to the other fences and walls in that neighborhood.
That too. I mean, I think that it's not incompatible with how fences and walls have been built in the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah.
So ask the audience member if she wants to ask questions
All
at
right.
this point.
Anybody from the audience need to have any questions?
Okay.
Would you like to make any statements?
Well, she's currently the owner of the house next door, 123 East Church, and I'm buying the house from her and moving up, and I have no issues with it.
Okay.
And can I have your name, please?
Yep, it's Abigail Napolitano, Abigail Napolitano.
And what's the address that you're purchasing?
123 East Church.
123 East Church. Thank you.
So I'm the house, when you're looking at the rendering, I'm the house on the left.
Oh,
Not the one with the white.
Not the one with the white fence,
Yeah,
the other side. Gotcha. Okay. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
Christine? No. Okay. So you rest.
Rest.
Okay. And we'll take your what was submitted, we'll just make collectively exhibit applicant 1. Okay?
Yep.
Right. Let's go outside just as a practice, even though this is one that we might not.
All right, back in session. I'd like to ask for a motion for property at 131 East Church Street.
Okay, I'd like to motion to grant relief for the dimensional variance of the proposed fence at dimensions set forth by the applicant upon condition that there is an approximately 5-foot separation from the sidewalk as shown in the rendering.
Do a second?
I'll second.
Then we usually take these by roll call.
Okay. Ms. Wiles Young,
Aye.
Danielle Joseph,
Aye.
Dr. Van Wert,
Aye.
and Mr. Schneck.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right. You have to deal with me a little bit.
You're
but I guess
fine.
we'll call the next case, 10 East Packer Avenue. Dave, if you wouldn't mind reading the details of the case.
I lost my agenda. Repeal of Lehigh University for a dimensional variance to a front yard setback, 20 feet required, 20 feet. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. 20 feet required, 14.58 feet proposed for an addition to the central heating and refrigeration building. Sections 1306.01 B9, 1323.04, and 1325.06, and all associated variances, special exceptions, and interpretations.
At this time, I'll ask anybody that wishes to speak to get sworn in, if you haven't already been sworn in, members of the audience.
Stand, yep.
Raise your right hands, please. You do swear or affirm that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You do so swear or affirm?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kate Durso on behalf of Lehigh University. We will confirm that the property was posted on January 9th, 2025. We have a photo if you need it, but the property was posted at that time within the requisite time frame.
Very good. Thank you. Let me ask the zoning officer if the request was advertised.
It was.
Okay, good. Council, we spoke off the record before we began.
Yes.
As you note, there are 4 board members here tonight. Are you content to proceed with the 4 members?
Yes, we are fine proceeding with a 4-member board.
Very
Correct.
well, thank you.
Okay. I presented the board with 4 exhibits. We'll just take them through the various witnesses, and we also submitted them electronically, so they're up on the screen if anybody needs to see them there.
Would you like them to be marked collectively as applicants exhibit number 1?
Whichever's easiest, that's
Okay.
fine.
You can proceed the way you're comfortable with. And
Okay,
and we'll
I'm probably
work-
going to go A1, A2, A3, A4, if that's easier.
We'll work the record that way.
Okay. Can you state your name for the record
Sure. Joseph Klosik.
and spell your last name?
Klocek.
And where do you work?
I'm the Director of Planning, Design, and Construction for Lehigh University.
And is the subject property located at the corner of Packer Avenue and Taylor Street?
It is?
And is the property owned by Lehigh University?
It is.
And is it within the institutional zoning district?
Yes.
And does the subject property contain buildings and structures that provide heating and cooling services to the Asa Packer portion of the campus?
Yes, it does.
And specifically, as was noted in the notice, the central heating and refrigeration building is on the property.
Correct.
And is that building used for steam and chilled water generation that then supplies heating and cooling to the Asa Packer campus?
It does.
And was that building constructed in the 1960s?
Yes.
And is the existing building non-conforming in that it's located closer to Packer Avenue's right-of-way than the current ordinance front yard setback requirements?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to show you what we've marked in the exhibit package as Exhibit 1. And Exhibit 1 consists of 4 aerial maps. Taking the first one in the exhibit, does that show centrally located the subject property?
It does.
And again, it's located at, I guess, I don't know if it's that north, south, or east.
It's located at the corner of Packer Avenue and Taylor Street.
Okay. And then the next aerial in that packet is a close-up of the cooling refrigeration building that we're talking about this evening.
Correct.
And also shows the parking located to the rear.
Yes.
And then it shows a bunch of mechanical equipment also behind the building.
Yep. Mechanical equipment, cooling towers that serve that building.
Okay. And then the next is basically an elevation showing the existing building and its proximity to the road. Is that correct? Okay. And then the last in that packet is showing looking down East Packer Avenue. Is that correct?
Correct. That is looking west on East Packer Avenue with the new business building to the right in that photo and the chiller plant to the left.
And in addition to the chiller plant building being located closer to Packer Avenue than what's currently permitted, does the building across the street also located within that required setback?
To my knowledge, it does.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's marked in the exhibit packet as Exhibit 2. Is Exhibit 2 a aerial showing that other Lehigh University building and its proximity to Packer Avenue?
It is.
Is Lehigh University proposing a 1,664 square foot expansion of the existing building?
Yes.
And what is the purpose of that expansion?
Purpose of that expansion is to allow us to install new chillers, 2 chillers, to replace chillers that are aging in the existing plant and failing. In order to do so, we need to be able to phase that replacement because of the way our systems work and the timeline that's needed to get new chillers online. And it's also in part because the scale of the existing building is not large enough to take the new chiller systems. So we need to be able to expand.
Okay, and the area that's proposed for the expansion, it needs to be adjacent to the existing building to accommodate how the chillers operate?
Correct. So the new chillers need to be tied into the existing systems that feed the campus. So they do so from a below grade manner, and that particular section of the building is specific to the chiller side of the plant. Further towards Taylor Street is the heating and boiler side of the plant. So we need to be able essentially to create this addition on that side. It's also constrained by us not necessarily having space anywhere adjacent to it and any other way to do so. So challenging site.
And is the size of the proposed expansion sort of the minimum necessary in order to accommodate both the size of the chillers and where they need to be located?
It is.
That is all the question I have of Joe.
Does anyone else in the audience have any questions? Do board members have any questions?
Well, I just need to understand it a little bit better. I'm looking at this map here, and so the new building is going to be this square that's close to Packer Avenue, and then the retaining screen and wall behind the building. So am I reading this right, that the new addition is not going to project farther than the existing building towards Packer?
Correct. So
Okay.
if you're looking at that plan that's on the screen right now, to the left side of the plan, it shows that small rectangle.
Yeah.
That's essentially the addition, just that small rectangle. And you're correct, it does not project any farther towards Packard than the existing soffit and corner projection of the existing building.
And the next witness can actually expand upon that a
Okay.
little bit too.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a, sorry.
Go ahead.
It looks like there's a small like retaining wall type thing. Are you just extending that down?
Correct. So currently at the front of the building, and I believe we have a picture of the front from the street, but yes, there's a loading area and retaining wall that fronts that space, and we're proposing extending that as well. That is the side that materials and any sort of replacement equipment gets loaded into the building from. So being able to expand that and essentially keep it in line with what exists makes sense from a just maintainability standpoint.
And it looks like you're losing an entrance into the central cooling building. I see a pathway there. That's going to be where the building is right now.
So to the right in that photo, there's a pathway that goes beyond the building to the parking lot to the rear. We'll actually be shifting that to the right to essentially just maintain that pathway, but further to the west.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
So the retaining wall will come out to about the same.
Yep, exact same plane.
Okay, wonderful.
Any other questions, anyone? Council, any redirect for? This witness?
No, not for Joe. No, we can just bring Chris up if that's.
Very well.
Okay. And can you state your name for the record
Yes, Chris Kaufman,
and spell your last name?
Kauffman.
And Chris, where do you work?
I'm a project manager with Skanska USA Building.
And what is Skanska's USA's role with the proposed project?
Yes, we were hired by Lehigh University as the construction manager for this project.
And then I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit A3, which is the plan that we were just referencing. Are you familiar with the plan and the improvements?
Yes, we asked our civil engineer Pannoni to create this plan.
And as was noted by Joe, the relief that's requested is going to result in not intruding further into the road than the existing building. Is that
That's correct.
And based on the ordinance requirements, there's a minimum front yard setback, but it's measured from the existing street right of way. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And in this area, Packer Avenue has a 60-foot right of way width.
Yes, that's what's shown on this plan.
Right. And so you essentially, the requirement would be 20 feet from the right of way as opposed to from the road itself.
Correct.
And in this instance, at the closest point is the existing building 15.12 feet from the Packer Avenue right of way. And what was proposed as noticed in the advertisement, the setback relief is for around 5.07 feet to allow a 14.93 foot setback.
Yes, to match the existing building, 5'1", if you want to round up, 5'1".
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's marked in the packet as Exhibit 4. Is Exhibit 4 a building elevation drawing depicting what the expansion will look like once constructed?
Yes, that's correct. That is a picture of the new addition in a model, in a virtual 3D model, aligned with the laser scan of the existing building.
And is there any way that the building expansion could be set back further due to the existing improvements on the site?
No.
Do the utilities and cooling towers that are currently there need to remain in operation during construction?
Yeah, like Joe said, this is a phase project. So the existing equipment has to remain in operation for this year, 2025 cooling season. The new equipment will go live into operation for next year, 2026 cooling season.
And as it relates to the surrounding properties, are they all Lehigh University properties?
Correct. Yeah, Lehigh owns all the surrounding properties, including across the street.
So for purposes of if the setback variance were to be granted, it's not impacting any other property except for Lehigh University property?
Correct.
Is Lehigh University requesting the minimum relief necessary in order to build the addition?
Yes.
Would Lehigh University incur an economic hardship if the variances were not granted?
Yes.
Will granting the variances create any hazard to public health, safety, or welfare?
No.
Will the proposed expansion change the character of the surrounding neighborhood?
No, it will not.
Will the expansion be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be in harmony with the character of the neighborhood?
Yes, it will.
I don't have any other questions of Chris.
Board members have any questions?
All right. At this time, I guess we'll go out in the hall
You
briefly.
rest? Okay.
Yep.
You rest. and
I rest, we rest,
Move the
yes.
admission of your exhibits.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Back on the record.
All right. At this time, I'll call for a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion to grant the variance because the required conditions have been met.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Wiles Young,
Aye.
Ms. Joseph,
Yes.
Dr. Van Wert,
Yes.
and Mr. Schneck.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
A motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I made a
Going off
legal
the record.
decision long ago that the one motion that the solicitor